Hello there, and welcome to another edition of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm Chrissy Morgan, and today we are in Bright, Indiana at the Providence Presbyterian Church of Bright, Indiana with Carl Hauser. Hello, Carl.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Not bad. It's a good Saturday.
It certainly is.
And basically, I hope we can give a little insight into a historical building that we have here. Basically, it's been a long, slow process of care, not only by myself, but also the parishioners that are a part of this congregation.
It turns out that the earliest known recorded piece of information for the church was in 1831.
Correct, yes.
And tell me about, was there another name for the church at that time?
Not another name for the church. It's an original name that the congregation at the time had chosen for themselves, Providence Presbyterian.
Okay, and what about the community?
The community did have a different name. It was called Saltillo, and later on it became Bright, Indiana, basically because of the people that were organizers of the community and also the church, and it went from there.
Okay. And please tell us about what brought people to the Bright area and what were the possibilities for them?
Okay, in 1831, this is a period of time when the United States was in a westward migration. People coming from the East Coast, all of the eastern states looking for a new life, hoping to strike up a new business, a new life. Most of that surrounded agriculture, and then others who were good at independent businesses created those businesses, and everything grew from there.
Now, I've heard that there was another Presbyterian church in Bright, Indiana. Why would you need a second Presbyterian church?
It wasn't in Bright.
Okay.
That Presbyterian church was established down in Harrison, Ohio.
Oh, right.
And so the people of this community basically would travel down one of the pathways to get across the river and attend that church down there. It's called the First Presbyterian Church of Harrison, Ohio.
Okay, and what would bring them over to want to create a new church then?
Well, basically, there's a major river at the foot of these hills down here. It's the Whitewater River, and during those times, there were no bridges, no dry fords, no way to really cross effectively, but in a good portion of the year, if the water came up or you had a lot of rain, it's going to be tough to get across the river. So that's why the people of this community up here basically wanted to build their own church and have their own congregation and become more independent for themselves.
I would think so. And what does it take to create a church, and who are the people involved?
Well, these people, John Gibson is one person that stands out. He is the person that donated all the land that this building and the local cemetery next door sit on. And others petitioned what was at that time the Oxford Presbytery in Ohio to see if they could get permission to become more independent. And that's how this all evolved.
Interesting. And tell us a little bit more about the cemetery, if you can.
Well, the cemetery essentially is a continuing work in progress, mostly locally run. It is connected to the church. We do receive benefits from each and every one of the graves that are sold and the activities that go on over there. So we have to have regular reports that basically deal with that structure. And that's what helps us to continue on.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know? Essentially, We have had lots of members who were a part of the cemetery as well as being members of the church. There's a son and his wife who run that organization over there. His father was an actual member of this church. I believe it was from 1945.
Wow.
So these people, like so many others, are long-standing, participants in the activities that go on here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We have other people who have donated things to the church body, parts of this building that basically exist. We have a portion of the steeple up above, out in front, was donated by another particular family. Couple, husband and wife, created this stained glass window assembly over here that it lets a lot of light in, especially when the sun shines. It's much nicer naturally when the sun shines.
Sure.
So it does what it's supposed to do. And when I'm sitting in a service here on an average Sunday, I'll look at that thing and just, you think about things.
That's what it's there for.
That's what it's there for.
Can you tell me about the building itself and the different changes and remodels it's been through?
Oh, yes. I went through my information and I pretty much calculated the fact that this building was a work in progress at least 5 times being remodeled. We've had this main sanctuary that we're sitting in. We've had additions both to the back, over here to my side, which is generally the south side. A basement that was put in, other types of situations that were brought about, all over, I'd say, the course of probably, I give it 45 to 55 years at least.
Wow. And
then some. It just seems to keep on going. We don't try to consider stopping because some people have asked that question, and if you take an example of many other churches that are of the same size and scope, many are not with us anymore today, but we're hanging in there.
Just keep building and rebuilding and remodeling with the times.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
That's the only way you can stay ahead.
Can you tell me about the first pastor?
Oh, not very much, only by name. His name was Reverend Scoville, and I had found in my research that overall we've had through all of this time, from 1831 all the way up until recently, 39 pastors come through this church.
Wow.
And I experienced one of the previous pastors who was a real great guy. Reverend Denny was his name. At the time when they hired him, he was supposed to be retired. And he took on the task anyway, and he stayed here. I think it was for approximately 12 years.
Wow.
And in the time that I've been here, which is about 17 years, we've gone through at least 4 more pastors past that time. And the person that we have right now is a really great guy. We feel blessed to have found him.
And what is his name?
Reverend Jerry Grigsby. And he's been doing all sorts of little things that really help to promote us as a church, but also helping people in kind. We have been experiencing some new members in the past year alone, which has helped out a lot. I hope it keeps up like this.
Well, tell us, what do you think the church does for the community here? Why does it stay around so?
Well, mainly like most churches, we are a giving organization. We can provide things. We've had a program in the past basically that helps school kids, small school kids. It's called the Giving Tree. And we have had parishioners contribute a small amount or actually go to a store and purchase items such as simple things like crayons, pencils, pens. You can go as big as a backpack, paper, and so on. And then we can go to a local school, whether it be a grade school or a middle school or even a high school, and give these things to kids that need stuff.
That's lovely.
So that's one thing. We have provided meals in the past. We invite homeless people whenever we can, or we will help them in some small way. In a bigger way, in a big picture, we have a mission that we carry on with. We had a couple, now we only have one person that's a part of that mission, and she works mainly in Tajikistan. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But she's been there quite a while. And the couple's name was Ruth and Bob Bussey. And he passed away, unfortunately, about 2 years ago, I think it was. And we have helped to continue this mission work and other kinds of little programs continually. That's part of what almost every church will do in any community. Doesn't matter what denomination, it's a giving organization. Absolutely.
So this church has been around, if I'm not mistaken, 192 years?
Yes.
Do you have anything to celebrate that?
We have a commemorative plaque right now from 2 years ago through the local historical society in Dearborn County. We'll take a picture of that, I assume, later on. And we've had that once before when I first started here, which was, I think, about 2005 or 2006. We had a ice cream social right out here in the side lot and erected tents, and at that time many of the old standing parishioners all dressed up in garb from years ago, and it was pretty neat. There were a lot of people that came around for that, and that celebrated, as I said, I think about 175 years at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. Is there anything else that you can tell us about the church?
Basically, we, digressing a little bit, we have tried to reach out to, in a program that goes countywide to help people in need through alcoholism and drug rehabilitation. We've held meetings here, or we provide, the space to have speakers come. There are persons who come from all around the county, even from Ohio, and we'll do what we can do as far as presenting some kind of a possibility for a way out of this lifestyle that they're in. Most of the time it seems to be working. This program also follows through at the county level in the local community center down in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. So it's a widely connected program, and that helps out a bunch.
One of the interesting things we've noticed inside this church are the pews are curved.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of creative handiwork on someone's part. Of course, in years past, there are a tremendous number of craftsmen that I personally have come across, but I do not know a complete history of these pews. only in that they're well constructed, they've lasted a long time. The church as a body has improved upon them as much as possible with a little bit of padding. Some people that I've seen in the past 17 years have claimed their seat in a certain space, you know. We don't, and I've seen this before in churches over in the East, like in Virginia. There are many famous people who have their names on a pew or a slot where they continually sat in their lifetimes. And this goes back to colonial times. So if you've ever done any information or researched anything about Williamstown, Virginia, that's where you'll find some of this stuff.
And you've been a member of the church for quite some time. Have you always been with the curved pews as well?
Pretty much, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I try to take care of them the best I can. Some of them have become a little worn and tattered here and there. The best thing that you can do is try to use, you don't want to use nails. Nails make wood split. I use screws, and you try to drill a hole before you put a piece of hardware into it. That's what will help preserve the integrity of the seat. Because when you have large crowds in here, people will tend to pull on the seat in front of them just to try and get up and down.
Sure.
And so that's mostly the wear that these seats will receive.
So it took a community to build the church to begin with.
Yeah.
Would you say it still takes a community to keep it running?
Oh, yes. All the time.
All the time, and you're just one of those members.
Yeah. I'm just a little cog in the wheel.
It's definitely needed. We appreciate that cog. Thank you so much, Carl.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. It's been fun. I have read a lot of information, dug into several pamphlets and books, and I have 2 books in my own personal collection. There's one book here at the church at all times that anybody can take a look at that gives you a reasonable background of the whole county and the area.
And what year is that book?
Gosh, I think it was put out only within the last 5 years.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact date, but it tells you a lot.
The church has a historical book dated 1883. Can you tell us a little bit about what the contents include?
Well, I specifically was looking for information about this church, but what I did come up with is a whole lot of information about the business dealings and the political connections that bring together the county. In fact, several of the surrounding counties, Ohio County is one, Ripley County is another. It will give you a reasonable insight as to how people coordinated their daily business efforts and political efforts all around the whole territory.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Carl.
Okay.
Thank you for watching another edition of History in Your Own Backyard. Today we were in Bright, Indiana at the Providence Presbyterian Church of Bright, Indiana with Carl Hauser. Remember, travel slowly and stop often.